Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is the TCL platform, and it's about leadership and self development. And today, Jacqueline Lulu Brown and myself are going to talk about leadership, what it means for women, what it means in politics, and not party politics, not specific things, but really the more general of how women show up. Are there any barriers with women when they go into politics? What do women face? Is there a difference between men and women
Hmm.
leadership in politics? So that's what we're doing. So for the next 20 minutes, it's going to be a global exchange about leadership and politics. So, with that said, I'll give you a brief introduction of myself. My name is Teresa Palmer. I'm a member of the Own It family, a contributing author to Own It magazine, and I'm usually found on the Monday, Mindful Monday, and the Tuesday Author Corner platforms. And today I was invited by Jacqueline Lulu. What do you prefer me to call you?
You can call me Jacqueline. That's fine.
Okay. Uh, Jacqueline had invited me on this platform today. So I'm really honored to be here. And I am also a holistic cardiology nurse practitioner and contributing author to Own It magazine. So I'll turn it over to Jacqueline now.
Hey there, everyone. We're so happy to be here. I am also part of the Own It Publishing family, and I'm just honored to be here with my cohort, Teresa, today. We both are published authors, best-selling authors, and I am also a coach, ICF certified coach, behavior practitioner, executive leadership training and development, and a huge focus on divine feminine leadership and what that means in today's world. And I'm just happy that we're here to talk about, and as Teresa said, not specific parties, but the challenges that remain in leadership today and what we see around different cultures and genders. So, Teresa, I want to kick it off with to you. And what are your thoughts around today's leadership? What do you think is missing that we still kind of haven't quite made the progress we should have?
I think what's missing is our heart because we're taught and we're conditioned to be in our head. And that's societal, organizational, you name it. We're always taught to be logical. And I'm not blasting logic because you need logic, but what you
Mhm.
need is a balance between the heart and the brain. And we don't have that right now. We're very focused on everything is kind of black or white. It's either this or it's that. And it should be and. It's a combination of things. It's never just this or it's that. It's always this and that to make room for opinions, a difference of opinion. When you get your heart involved and
Mhm.
that emotion and that feeling, you're bringing that personal touch to the political or the leadership arena. And I
Mhm.
think that's what's really missing now, that we're kind of conditioned that we want to just do X, Y, Z, stick with a script, whatever that script may be, and don't deviate from that script because you're supposed to be viewed as the authority, as this, as that. And boy, if you show any emotion, is that good? Of course it's good,
Right.
but we're not taught that. We're taught that just be the authoritarian and rule
Mhm.
and just be a leader that's the authoritarian. So what do you think about that?
You really hit the nail right on the head. I love what you said. Uh, the heart, the human spirit seems to have left the building. You know how they say Elvis left the building? Well, in many ways, I believe our heart has left the building when it comes to leadership. And that's an important part. And it's always bothered me that people speak about emotion in a negative manner. And my thoughts is that first, let's change our language because there's nothing wrong with emotion, but let's change that to say passion. Because when we're accused of being emotional, oh, well, as you said, you have to, it has to be logical and it has to make sense. You know, we're not, and now I'm going to tell my age, we're not Dr. Spock in Star Trek. If you think way back when he used to say, well, it's illogical. But we have to bring the heart with the intellect and align that. And it's okay to operate from a sacred space, which is your heart. That's all that is. We complicate this whole emotional piece, and that's where I believe divine feminine leadership principles come into play, because it's not for females. It's not, divine feminine leadership is not a trend. It really is a timeless calling to remove the old paradigm of, as you stated, the intellect, and you really don't allow anything else to enter into what your brain says, but your brain is disconnected from your heart. Divine feminine leadership principles are really an awakening to the sacred power that is within men and women, and all it's doing is honoring your presence from wisdom, from the heart, rather than domination, fear, and ego. And it's not complicated, but it is something that is missing today quite a bit. And I really think that the old paradigm and the traditional leadership, it emphasized strategy, control, and competition. And I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but what needs to come into that is inner knowing and grace and wisdom, and then vision and service rather than vanity and status, more than aggression or needing approval, but leadership that really listens deeply, that actively listens, sees clearly, and then acts courageously from a place of the heart. And I love that. What I would ask you is, when you talk about the heart, can you elaborate on that just a little bit more, so that as I'm referring to what you said with the heart, so that people really understand that this isn't being emotional and out of control.
Right.
It's a centered place. It's really the foundation of that connection with our brain.
Right, right. When I talk about the heart, and this is really what my whole practice has been based on for well over 2 decades, close to 3 decades, is really looking at this holistic view. We think of holistic as alternative therapies, whatnot.
Mhm,
No, that's not what it is. It's a combination of our Western culture with ancient and Eastern culture traditions, where the Eastern traditions see the heart as the center of our being. And people may or may not agree with that. In the West, especially I've seen in our field of cardiology, is we think of the heart as a pump.
mhm,
It's a pump. It's a miracle because the heart gives and sustains life. Without your heart, you're not going to be here. 3.5 weeks after conception, Your heart is not only the first organ, but it's the first brain to develop. And I'll explain that further in a minute. And then at 4.5 weeks comes the brain in the head. Then at around 5 weeks comes the brain in our gut. And it's all connected through the nervous system. So
Mhm.
it's supposed to work together. So when we look at the heart is more than a pump. The heart is really, you could look at it as your intuition, your inner knowing. It's also your connection to a higher power. And it doesn't matter what you call that higher power. It's not a religious thing, it's a spiritual thing. And if these traditions have been passed down, I guess for like hundreds of years, there's got to be some sort of validity to it. Even though right now, science can't tell us about a lot about the spiritual aspect of our heart. Heart Math has done a lot of research about the connection between the heart and the brain and the gut. And I think that's a very important piece, that when we look at our heart, we're not just looking at it as a pump, but we're looking at it as, yes, the seat of our emotions. It has a connection to our emotions. The heart has a brain. We take in and process emotions. And when we do it with our heart, it gives us a chance to sit with it, because the brain is a pre programmed response. So if we take time first with the heart to sit with it, the heart could send the message to the brain via the nervous system that everything is okay and not put us in that stress or fight or flight mode. And I think a lot of times we're operating from fight or flight, and
Mhm.
that's what gets us in trouble. That's
Yes.
what always gets us in trouble, because really we think we're thinking, but we're not thinking, if that makes sense. We're not thinking because we're running on autopilot. And when we only use our brain, the brain is like a computer. It's more like an autopilot. And when we bring our heart into it, and we could recognize that as much as we do things to help our heart, such as diet, exercise, meditate, medications, and all, our heart can also help us, because our heart can help us to stay calm. It could be our ally against stress. It's our connection to a higher power. And there is a power greater than us. And
Mhm.
it doesn't matter, again, what we call that power, but it's just a recognition that we don't do everything ourselves. And I think that's when we bring our heart into it.
Mhm.
And I think currently there's that disconnect, because we believe that we have to just do everything with our brain. And we're not turning things over to that higher power. We're not asking for guidance. What we're saying is, I know it all. I'm the leader. I know it all. And this is what I want to do. And we need to, again, bring that heart into it, that holistic view of that meshing between the Western and the Eastern philosophies, the practices, the traditions, to use the wisdom of our heart to help guide us with our brain. It's not heart or brain, it's heart and brain working together to get the best results. So I hope that's clear to people.
Absolutely. I love the way that you describe that. And it's really important to understand the difference in Western culture and Eastern culture. And having been someone that has had the opportunity in leadership to experience all different cultures, very much Eastern and Western, what you have outlined is so very important, because when we are operating from that place, power is not hoarded, it's shared. And influence is not about control, but it's actually about transformation. And the leadership is really not about hierarchy, but it's about harmony. And people will challenge and say, no, it can't be that way. But it's more effective. Teams perform at a much more productive rate along with being more engaged. There's lots of engagement surveys that are being done across companies, and we're actually seeing results around the leadership being more in harmony than actually leading from a hierarchy perspective. That doesn't mean that you're not going to have your let's say supervisor level, your managers, your directors, your C-suite executive leadership, but they work in harmony, not so focused on what that individual's level of power is, and really pushing the ability to influence without authority. That's a powerful tool to have when you can influence, but you don't necessarily have authority over other people. And this idea that the softness of the empathy and leading from the heart, it doesn't suppress the masculine energy at all. What it does is it integrates everything together to make the leadership more in harmony with the people that we are actually not just leading, but actually bringing along to become leaders. Because intuition is not just something that should be viewed as feminine. Discipline, commitment, all of these things really should come together holistically. So I love the way that you have explained that. In today's world, what are your thoughts around how we build the bridges instead of the walls?
Mm,
I'll talk
yeah.
a little bit about the truth and the compassion, but what are your thoughts around building bridges instead of walls?
Well, definitely. And I'll tell you one thing, yin and yang, those terms, the yin
Yes,
and the yang, the masculine, the feminine, we all have both.
yes, we do.
And when that's in harmony is when we function the best. We
Yes.
need to build bridges. We definitely do. And I think when we're closed off from our heart, there's no
Mm,
compassion, there's no empathy, there's no love, there's no respect. So what happens is we get this chaos of I'm right, my views are right. And I think it all comes because we feel powerless. When
mhm,
we connect with our heart and when we get our heart involved with our brain, we
mhm,
have that power. And that
mhm,
power says that even though we're not the quote unquote leader, we still have an influence of how
mhm,
things are done. And I think we really forget that because
mhm,
we get so bent on hardening our heart and closing other people out that we can't see the forest through the trees. We're not going anyplace. And we go round and round. And, we're certainly not getting into what's going on in the world right now, politics and otherwise. But if you look at it, it's pure chaos. It's all chaos because we're not taking in our own power. We're not being responsible for ourselves.
mhm,
We're not utilizing any love, compassion, because if we did, we would realize, okay, love tells us that nothing is one sided. There's always two sides. And to have any kind of a partnership, love tells us that there has to be mutual respect. We have to give the other person a chance.
mhm.
We may not always agree with what they're saying,
Right.
but everybody has a right to be
Mhm,
able to speak, to be able to utilize their personal power and
mhm,
to utilize it constructively, not fighting back and forth, but saying, okay, this is what I believe, and perhaps if we do this, maybe this could occur. So, like you said, it's all about teamwork, and you can't have teamwork when you're in your own little world and you're cooped up in your own little space that says, this is what I do, this is what I believe, this is what it is. I'm not doing anything else. Don't even talk to me about it because I want to be set in my own little space. That's our
Absolutely.
problem. Love could love can change it, but we have to
Yes,
realize that love can change it.
absolutely. You hit the nail right on the head when you described that everything is marked in chaos today. Chaos, conflict, and division. And the sad part is that the world is not realizing that there is a cry now for there to be healing in leadership as well. Building the bridges, but also speaking truth with compassion. We can have truth. If something is some a particular way, then that's the way it is. But it has to be spoken and addressed with compassion. And then unity. We need more movements of unity and restoration of the human spirit. So, to your point, we can bring forth that dignity in every person in all parts of society, but it starts with the leaders. So, as we're wrapping up here, because time goes by so quickly, if if our listeners take away anything, because this segment is about self mastery, aligning the inner world with our divine truth, because the world that is in us, you did such a great description about the brain and the development in the womb and the heart. And if we can align with our inner being, and then align that with divine truth. The other piece of it is discernment. That has become a bad thing now. Oh, you're operating off of emotion. No, discernment is actually seeing beyond the illusion that sometimes is in front of us, and it gives us that view into more spiritual reality. And then the emotional intelligence, responding with that wisdom and not the power control reaction. All of this allows us to lead in a sacred space, leading for purpose and not from ego. And then you talked about fight flight, rest and reflection, less fight flight and more rest and reflection, knowing that when we pause, we replenish and we realign, and then it all comes together. So I'm going to turn it back over to you to close us out. Thank you so much for being here today. And I just look forward to us having more of these conversations, and hopefully our listeners glean something that will help them in their development, self mastery, and leadership.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for having me. And my last words would be to people is to really, number one, think before you speak or do anything,
Yes.
to reflect on things, and to get your heart involved with your brain and let them work together. Don't let them work separately or not at all. Just let them work together. And that's where you get the best results. And realize that we are all interconnected. We may be different on the outside, but everybody's the same on the inside. In fact, we're made from the same substances and energy that the universe is. So that'll give people something to think about. That's a whole day topic right there. So I say lead not just with your brain, not just with your heart. Lead with a combination of the both, with empathy, with respect, and love. And right now, I would say we're really missing respect.
Yes.
So we need to get that respect back for each other. And that's where we'll be the most successful as leaders. Thank you for joining us. The glasses have to come on because I have to get my music here. And let me find it here. Intro. Uh, hmm. Okay. I am going to I'm going to play the same music because
All
right now I
righty.
cannot find it. Okay.
And
Take
we're
care,
out.
everyone.
All
We're
right.
out.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye bye.